Okay, so we are here for the Central Iowa Watershed Management Authority's board member orientation, and we thought that it was needed simply because there are a lot of newcomers to the Central Iowa WMAs, and also there are a lot of people that have been on the WMA for a long time that maybe just need a refresher as to the history of the WMAs, why they were formed, and what the role each member plays in ensuring the success of the WMA. So our purpose here today is to review the roles that WMA staff members and the organizations they each represent, and then understand the purpose of the WMAs. There is an annual review presentation that we are currently working on. We have the recording on YouTube right now, and then we will have the actual annual report, the physical annual report, ready to go later this year. So, what is a WMA? Introduce staff, WMA meetings, and WMA goals and resources. So what is a WMA? WMA is a Watershed Management Authority, and it is a formal agreement. It's called a Chapter 28E amongst two or more political subdivisions. And this, in the Central Iowa WMAs, includes cities in Central Iowa, counties, including Polk County, Story County, Dallas County, and then the soil and water conservation districts. And these were formed because around 2008, there were ongoing issues within the Central Iowa watersheds, specifically related to flooding and water quality. And it was signed into law that watershed management authorities could be formed in order to address some of these problems. And when we talk about an authority, we talk about intergovernmental cooperation. So the WMAs actually don't have any governing authority. It's actually a collaboration between existing governments to help identify and solve problems. So some of the WMA activities include watershed planning and management activities, education, and grant writing and administration. These WMAs are required to form within a HUC 8 watershed, and a HUC stands for Hydrologic Unit Code. And basically, that is a unit of measurement for the size of a watershed. So the WMAs are within the mid-range of a watershed, and I will show you a map of the existing WMAs shortly so you can kind of get an idea of how large these watersheds are. So here's a list of things that WMAs have the authority or the capacity to do. They can assess flood risk, assess water quality, assess options for reducing flood risk and improving water quality. They can monitor federal flood risk planning and activities, and they can educate residents of the watershed regarding water quality and flood risks. But like I said, they have no authority to acquire property by eminent domain. Then they do not have taxing authority. Another thing that you have to take into consideration is that WMAs are unique. No two are alike in how they operate, as well as the types of projects that they work on. So here's a map of the existing watershed management authorities in Iowa, and I believe there are one or two that are currently in the works of being formed now. So this list might go up a little bit, but you can see there's 28 already established in Iowa, kind of in clusters around some of the priority watersheds that the DNR lists, like the Des Moines River watershed and the Iowa River and the Cedar River. And you can see they're kind of mid-range watersheds. You can have a watershed as small as, you know, a neighborhood, or as large as the Mississippi River watershed, which encompasses several states. So a HUC 8 watershed is kind of that mid-range manageable size of watershed that can have a few different government organizations working together to solve problems. So the Central Iowa WMAs consist of 4. So we have the 4 Mile Creek watershed, the Walnut Creek watershed, the Mud Camp and Spring Creek watershed, and the Beaver Creek watershed. 4 Mile was the first one. formed in 2012 to address some historical flooding issues. The Mud Camp Spring Watershed, which is actually comprised of 3 different creeks, but they're all very small. So this watershed is actually taking 3 smaller ones and putting them together so that they can be better managed as a whole. That was formed in 2014 to address rapid urban development and related runoff issues. The Walnut Creek Watershed, which is our most urbanized watershed in the central Iowa WMAs, formed in 2015 to address that rapid urban runoff development and the runoff issues. And then the newest one is the Beaver Creek Watershed, which formed in 2020 to address flooding, high nutrients, and high levels of sediment. That one and the Mud Camp Spring are largely rural watersheds as well. So all of these central Iowa watershed management authorities have a watershed management plan. And that was formed when the Watershed Management Authority was created. The member organizations got together to identify a roadmap for watershed improvement. And so what the benefit of that is it is a plan that addresses critical areas of need. It also puts all the data from assessments that have been done within that watershed in one place. It gives the opportunity to gather community input and then prioritize projects for watershed improvement. And then when there are projects that are identified, then from there, the member organizations can start to determine partner roles and responsibilities and to see who can help make these projects a reality. And then also search for funding to implement these plans. So we have all of the watershed management plans for Central Iowa on Polk County's website. So if you just Google Polk County Watershed Management Authority, it should pop right up. Or if you go to the DNR's website, they're also on there if you want to read them. They're very long, usually 100 pages or more, but it gives you a lot of great background information on the watersheds and how they came to be. So the watershed management authorities are funded by several different sources because once again, this is a partnership. And so one that continually helps get projects on the ground are large grants. And so we have our federal EPA Section 319 or 604B planning grants through the DNR, and the Iowa watershed approach through the Iowa Economic Development Authority. And then on the state level, we have the Water Quality Initiative through IDALS that help get a lot of projects done. We also have member contributions to the Watershed Management Authority. This is actually kind of unique to Central Iowa. Not all watershed management authorities have, I guess we'd call member buy-in or a member fee that's paid annually to help support the WMA. And this is something that is beneficial to the Central Iowa WMAs because it can help get more projects on the ground, and it can also help fund full-time staff to facilitate these programs. And then along with those funding sources, we have private funding from foundations, nonprofits such as the Nature Conservancy, and then agribusiness and other corporations. So you can see this is an example of one of the projects that was done using multiple funding sources. And Jen, you can probably give more details to list all of them. But the photos here show the stormwater wetland at Hull and 35th in Des Moines. And this was in the 4 Mile Creek watershed. And this grassy open area you see on the top photo used to be where a neighborhood was, and it was in the floodplain, and it was a problem area with all the flooding that was going on. So it was targeted as an area that was going to have some watershed improvements. So it was a partnership through the city of Des Moines, I know, and Polk County Conservation to buy out some of these properties and turn it back into an area that can handle persistent flooding. And then with the help of the WQI, the Water Quality Initiative grant, as well as I believe the state revolving fund and some other sources that funded this large stormwater wetland. And you can see this was just after construction, so you don't have grass on it yet, but you can see it has that classic snaking pattern that can collect stormwater and make it wind through plants that can help filter and filter out pollutants. And then that water is also slowed down before it reaches 4 Mile Creek, which would be above the wetland in this picture. Anything to add about that, Jen?
Yeah, you did a great job. I think, a couple things is you can see the road that was removed through there, so that was another part of the project. But the other interesting thing is the water was going directly from the neighborhood through the storm drain and coming out in the woods area and going right into 4 Mile. And so now we've made it go through this stormwater wetland instead. So, it's been anytime we can add in some practices like that, we're doing our part.
Thanks. There we go. So like I mentioned before, the Central Iowa WMA's funding is unique. So it was originally that the Polk Soil and Water Conservation District was the fiscal agent for WMA operations. And that meant that they would handle the money for the projects, basically. And under the Polk SWCD, the 4 Mile, Mud Camp Spring, and Walnut Watershed Management Authorities were formed. And then in 2017, a WMA coordinator was hired, which is John Swanson, who's still with us, for the Soil and Water Conservation District. And then just recently in 2020, his position was moved from the district office to Polk County. And so now Polk County is the fiscal agent for several of these projects. And this type of model, like I said, really helps create a funding mechanism to permanently staff a WMA coordinator, which is essential to getting a lot of these projects done. And then each member pays an annual fee. It's based on population size and some other factors. And this ensures that there's always someone that is working for the success of the WMA, and it doesn't fall back on the members for some of the, the money stuff and the grant stuff. So here are the staff for Central Iowa WMAs. So under Polk County, we have John Swanson, who is the WMA coordinator, as well as the water resources supervisor for Polk County. And then you have me, who is the water resources outreach coordinator. I do a lot of administrative assistant sort of stuff for John and the WMAs. And then under the Soil and Water Conservation District, you have Jennifer Welch, who is our urban conservationist. We have Michael James, who is the agricultural coordinator. So Jen helps with a lot of urban water quality improvement projects, and then Michael, his focus is more on the rural and agricultural projects. And then up in the Beaver Creek WMA, we have Riley Bass, who just started a few months ago as their coordinator. And each WMA has a board, and typically one representative from each member city, county, or soil and water conservation district has a member, and then they get one vote per member, regardless of the population or proportional area in the watershed. So we have pretty good representation across the board for all of our watershed management authorities. And we also have an executive board, which is comprised of 4 members, and they usually have 2-year terms. They have the opportunity to renew after year 1, and then after year 2, it rotates. And that includes a chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. However, because of the uniqueness of the Central Iowa WMAs, that we have full-time WMA staff, these board positions are pretty cushy. There's not a whole lot of responsibility for these executive boards, but we do like our executive board to be active members of the WMA, and we hope that they act as leaders in the group when it comes to keeping the meetings going, as well as helping out with any additional projects outside of the meetings. So the chair, their responsibility is to call the meeting to order, as well as call for motions to approve any actions that are taken or that are suggested at the meetings. The vice chair is there, to help the chair if needed. And then the secretary and treasurer are more in name alone. besides being leaders for the WMAs, because I take all of the minutes for the WMA meetings. And like I said before, the Polk County is the fiscal agent or the treasurer for the WMAs. So there aren't a whole lot of extra duties involved with being on the board. And you probably have figured out by now that partnerships are crucial to the WMA success. One group couldn't do this alone. And so along with our members for the WMA, we also have the help of other groups like Resource Conservation and Development Groups, or RC&Ds, Council of Government, planning consultants, agency staff, and other organizations like universities, nonprofit organizations, and then other businesses and agricultural organizations. So board meetings are held quarterly, normally in January, April, July, and October. All of them are held in person, normally at wherever the board chair's office is, except for January, which is usually held virtually due to the unpredictable weather in Iowa. And during these meetings, we discuss issues that are described in the management plan. So we will review what was listed in the management plan as priorities and what projects have been, completed, what are, in the works, what still needs to be done, and then find ways to achieve solutions to these issues through partnerships. And I usually send out the agendas and the previous meetings minutes a week in advance of the actual meeting so that they can be reviewed. And if there's any information that needs to be relayed to the WMAs at the meeting, you have the chance to do that, or get the right information before the meeting. The meetings are followed under Robert's Rules of Order, which is basically where we call the meeting to order, and then if we have any actions taken, we have to call for a motion to approve, and then we let the members vote yes or no on that. And we have you can have up to three representatives for each member organization. Like I mentioned before, each member organization only gets one vote, but they can have up to 3 people representing that organization in case certain people can't make the meetings regularly. So each member usually promotes a primary, alternate, and second alternate representative. So the primary is the one that will usually come to all the meetings, and if they are there, they are the one that makes that takes the votes, or that makes a vote. The alternate can vote if the primary representative is not present at the meeting, and then the second alternate can make a vote if the primary and alternate are not at the meeting. So the roles of WMA board representatives, besides coming to meetings and discussing the plan and how it can move forward, is to be a connection between their community or organization and the WMA. So that's why it's encouraged when I send out the meeting minutes and agenda a week in advance, that the representatives can talk to the appropriate people in their community and share community watershed news concerns with the group, and then alternatively report our activities back to the community so that they know what we're doing and we know what they're doing, in case there's ways that we can further partner, or if there's anything that we have to keep each other aware of when projects are moving forward. And then they're also expected to engage with other WMA staff and members to identify where these partnerships can be formed, and then also share any new potential funding sources they may come across, just to keep moving along with our mission of improving our watershed. So here's some more examples of some WMA special projects that have happened recently. And we've got some good representation among individual watersheds, but then also there's some projects that are beneficial to all of the watersheds. So we have our 4 Mile Greenway project, which basically turned a large section of 4 Mile into a linear park that has connections to green space. So we connected existing green space. We bought out properties to create watershed improvement projects, and basically trying to make it an attractive area for people to visit, as well as manage stormwater. And then we're trying to do something similar right now with the Mud Camp Spring Greenway. That's in the planning phases right now. We have our Walnut Creek Watershed Festival that this year is going to be in West Des Moines, and it's basically an awareness festival about what a watershed is and different uh, water issues within the Walnut Creek watershed, and celebrating the communities that are in it and what they do to help improve the watershed. And then we have our Eastern Polk Stream Restoration Project, formerly known as the WFPO, and that's a big stream restoration project that's taking place on 4 Mile and Mud Camp Spring watersheds. And then we have the Rain Campaign, which is beneficial to all of the Central Iowa WMAs. That's my uh, website and campaign that advertises all of the rebate programs that are available for urban conservation projects in residential areas. And we recently brainstormed some goals for 2024 with all of the WMAs, and we will be sharing those in our print version of our annual report. So those are some examples of ways that the WMAs can work either individually or as a group and come up with projects that can benefit a larger region like Central Iowa. So I encourage you, as a WMA representative or partner, to keep sharing those new ideas because you can ask John. There's a lot of projects that have come to fruition that started just with a wild idea and then it, snowballed, but in a good way, like the batch and build process. So no idea is too out there. We can always talk it through. So if you're interested in learning more, we do have some board member resources. So new this year, I created a packet. It's a 3-ring binder for our representatives. And right now they're sitting in my office, but I'm hoping to get them distributed to everyone by April or sooner. So if I see you, I'll try to get you one before April. Otherwise, you will get one at the next WMA meeting. And it gives you kind of the Cliffs Notes version of the watershed management plan for your WMA that you represent, as well as what the Roberts Rules of Order are, and a little bit of history on your watershed, and then information about meetings. So it's kind of just a little takeaway that you can have with you, and you can put your meeting minutes and agendas in there and your notes so that you can keep all of your WMA information in one place. And like I mentioned before, all this information is also on the Polk County Water Resources page. And like I said, it's a lot easier just to Google it. If you do Polk County Watershed Management Authority, the website should come right up. They're also listed on the Iowa DNR website. And you should all be on my email list, but if you're not, please feel free to email me and I can get you on the list to receive the monthly WMA email newsletter where I celebrate the projects that are going on in the area, as well as make you aware of our lunch and learns that we just started and other news in the Central Iowa WMAs. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. And like I mentioned before, please put your questions in the chat. Unless I can figure out how to unmute everyone. Maybe I can. If I unmuted you and you can talk, go for it. And I'll stop the recording.